JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Wednesday, August 13th, 316. On this fine afternoon, talk quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P up about a 0.25% here, continuing yesterday's rally. Feels like a lot more, right? Um, but good stuff today on the heels of yesterday's CPI induced rally. Some of the reasons, I guess, for me, looking at my watch list and seeing some of all the names in the green is small caps, right? Small caps are up almost for the week, 5%, up another 1.7% today. We've been talking about this churn or at least consolidation for the S&P and the small caps taking the baton for the next leg of the rally. Maybe that's the start of it, right? But either way, nothing crazy today. There's SPY all the way up to, I talk about the range at the start of the week, right? Each week I've been having these ranges on the SPY. I'm trying to remember what last week's was, but this week's 628 to 646, right? Set it at the start of the week. We still have 2 more days to go. But of course, what do? We hit 646 early in the morning, and that was the high today. So I don't know if that's going to be the high for the rest of the week. A lot's going to depend on what happens with PPI data tomorrow, retail sales and consumer confidence Friday. But for me, it's almost like even we hit the highs in the morning, it's almost good to see kind of consolidation and some support come in, right? You don't want to see the market just go bonkers, and then when the pull comes or the consolidation comes, it's going to be a heck of a lot bigger and more painful. So this is kind of the action I think bodes well, especially if you're in call positions, and hopefully it continues into the end of the week. I put it on the watch list this morning. It's like one of those harvest days, right? And over the years, there's like a couple weeks or a couple days or even like a month where you can say this is where 95% of my gains came for the entire year. I'm not sure if this is going to be it, but it's been a good couple weeks, and hopefully that continues. Um, and then there's trades, right? And there's a couple trades over the years where I can count. Okay, this trade made 50% of my gains, or what have you, even including the losses. So hopefully that continues. All right, so that's kind of the market. I mean, nothing, no mind-boggling or market-changing catalysts. I think is it Cisco? There's some earnings after the close. I don't know if that's going to do much. Um, I'm trying to think of somebody's. There was IPO bullish IPO today. It's funny. I'm like, if I have a company that goes public, I'm gonna try and get the ticker buy, right? Because then, how funny if the analyst comes out says, "Oh yeah, we upgrade buy to a buy from neutral." All right, joking aside. All right, so that's kind of the overall market. Also, on the SPY, take a look at we're above the upper Bollinger Band, so we came down to 642. Is that the low today? 642.88. The lower Bollinger Band is 643 upper. Excuse me, 643.48. So it's I'm not saying it has to close under the upper Bollinger Band, but that we might get some snapback underneath that, whether it be today or tomorrow or Friday. All right, so that's overall markets. And then small caps, I mean, massive 2-day, 2-session rally. Uh, yeah, just good stuff here. And you know what? At some point we'll pull, right? And it doesn't mean that I'm uber bullish, have my bullhorns on, and not open to downside at some point. But you take what the market gives you. Right now, it's giving you gains to the upside. I think this will be the 8th consecutive day for the S&P, higher highs and higher lows. That's all good stuff. And then some of the things that you hear over the last couple of days, right? It's to me at these points when the market's making all-time highs, it's like harder for folks to imagine this is just the start of a major multi-month or multi-year run for the S&P than it is. It's a lot easier to say, oh, there's gonna be a pullback, right? Especially what we saw with April. You're like, oh, we're only a couple months removed from that. So I mean, who knows, right? You can't rule that scenario out either. Where over 700 on a SPY at the end of the year. That would be uber super optimistic. Every kind of little thing has to go right, I think, for that. But food for thought. All right, so that's overall market. So now just individual names. Of course, I'll start with United Healthcare. Monster, right? I mean, last Friday I finally got the calls after staring at UNH for a bounce for a while and seeing a lot of folks on FinTwit, right? And a lot of people have been trying to play this bounce since April, since March, May, and then even in July here, and boom, all the way down to lows, and got lucky, right? So luck is when preparation meets opportunity, most of the time, right? Sometimes you just get lucky, you don't get struck by lightning. That's a different kind of luck, I guess. But so got the bounce, held, it gapped on Monday, and even that it pulled back. You're like, okay, not up too much. And then yesterday, gapped, ran, it kind of held the gains, closed right near the highs of the day, and then boom, just continued to go here today. My calls are in the money. So at the same token, you don't know what's going to happen. So at the open, I locked some in, some more of my calls in for close to 300%. And then as it continued to run, close some more out for 700%. Now I just hold a few, right? So the thought in my head was, do I lock those in and get further out strikes, or I just continue to hold the 270? So I'm going to continue to hold the 270s because I think, and you start looking at the 50-day moving average is right there at 289. I don't know if it's going to get there by Friday, but I mean, does it get to 280? It's possible, right? And then you're looking 20 bags plus on those calls. So I'll just continue to hold those, and then it's a name. Oh, and Lemonade just went over 60. It's a name that I don't know if I'll revisit short term, like into next week, just because I'm not saying that the easy gains have been made. No gains are easy, but there might be some issues, not issues, might be a little harder risk reward basis, right? Especially with the move it's had, the premiums have elevated on some of these out of money strikes. So just that's that. All right, so that's UNH Lemonade, which just broke over $60. I had those 50. Well, I had the 50s last week, right? Monster trade, couple 100% on the calls. And then I went and got to 55 strikes into this week, right? And then we had that pull, those 55 calls went some solid green to flat, so I closed them out. And then as we came into, Friday it rallied, and then even Monday it was starting to rally, and I started to look at the risk reward, and I thought, if I think it's going to squeeze, I'd rather take a less riskier position. I mean, well, less premium, right? A less expensive position, further out of money, and then I'll still get a similar reward, right? And so that's why I went and got those 60 strikes inexpensive, and then sure enough, uh, was able to close some out to cover costs yesterday, and then just spiked and ran out of the gate, and it closed somewhere out for over 500%. I don't even want to look to see what they are right now. I mean, actually, I could, but I'm like, do I close them out? And then it dropped to 59, and the calls were still 130. I'm like, I'll just hold on to them. And now they're 160 by 170. So it keeps going. There can be 10 bags. Tomorrow there might be 15 bags. So I'll just continue to hold the rest of those. Uh, and that's in lieu of trying to add some further out strikes. I look at Lemonade, I think it can go to 70, 80, $90 now. As crazy as that sounds. So I don't know if I'm going to get strikes today, but certainly a possibility uh, at some point. So that's Lemonade. So another great trade. And now Lulu, right? And kicking myself, I wouldn't say kicking myself, right? You got to have a plan coming into the week. My plan was not to be super aggressive, especially today, too. As much as it's a great day, locking a lot of things in, the worst kind of feeling is when you have a great day and then you go add some positions and load the boat because you're feeling super confident, and then you get your butt kicked at the end of the week. So yesterday, I'm staring at those Lulu 202.50s. They were 22 cents. There might have been less than that at some point. I missed on those, and the 210s, I missed on those. And the thought process was that I still had the 205s for this week, but they were solidly red from where I entered. But then, sure enough, I put on the watch list. Lulu, I think it goes to 200 today, and sure enough, it goes to $200. Those 202.50s were 20 cents. They were up over 800% at times. I was able to get some of my 205s out for 100%, and then I added some 215s into next week, close some of those out for 100%. So I'll continue to hold both of those. Uh, I make a joke, right? The American Eagle ad or what have you, but it's like these brands. To me, it's like an eye-opening experience for these brands that marketing and things like viral moments can really have an impact, especially on your business. So Lulu coming down to from where was back in January. It was $428 stock or whatever. Down here, it was 180, 185 on Monday or Tuesday morning, 186 somewhere in there. I think there's opportunity for continuation. I don't know if it's going to go to the 50-day moving average 232. I think there's an opportunity here. So I'll just continue to hold those strikes. Hopefully, get a similar move that United Healthcare had, multi-day. And the hardest part of moves like this, especially on United Healthcare, the easy part is the entry, right? Anybody can just pick a strike and get in. The hard part is the hold. And the even harder part in the hold is when the position's up a couple 100%, because any sane person would say, I'm going to close these out. I'm up 100%. I'm up 200%. Who in their right mind is going to close out a position up 200% in 2 days or in a couple hours or in a couple minutes? But the big gains in options come from the hold, right? The holding from a position that's up 200% to a position that's up 1,000% or 2,000%, and that's where the big money's made. So the other thing is when I lock some of these in or cover costs, I'm taking out the reward element, right? So a position that's up 1,000%, I lock some in for 100% and then ride the rest. When it's up 1,000%, it's really only up 500% or so because I already locked some of the position in. So that's the tough part, right? But for me to managing risk with options is important. Otherwise, you wind up blowing up. You're out of the game pretty quick if you don't figure out ways to manage positions. So that's how I've been managing, especially recently over the last couple of years. Lock some in on the way up. That's what I've been doing. All right, so rant on for other days. All right, so that's Lulu. I think it could trade north of 210, 215 next week. So that's the thought process there on those strikes. IIPR, which is still rallying here, almost looks like it's gonna hit 55 bucks. Uh, use the move to today's move. It's up another 4%. Again, it's a name no one talks about, no one looks at. It's in the cannabis space. Regulatory hurdles, especially eventually going to get removed. It takes away the headwinds. Company a REIT 15% or so. Dividend yield. They actually buy back stock. They have cash. It's just a it's a name that should be trading substantially higher, in my humble opinion. Uh, so I was able to lock some of my October strikes over 100%. I was looking for other strikes. I'm just going to stand pat for now, just because it's right at a key area, right? So the 50 days 53.94, so it broke through that. And then once it gets up to 57.50 or so, if it can't break through that, I'll probably just lock the rest of the Octobers. I don't think that's going to be the case, right? I think it's going to get to 57.50 and break through that like a hot knife through butter. If that's the case, I mean, it's going to go substantially higher, and then I'll add some more strikes. So that's IIPR. And then CGC, right? I mean, massive rally already this week, took a breather yesterday and today. Even with Tilray up nearly 30%, it's like just can't break out. To me, that's a good thing, right? Because, well, not a good thing, but I still have the October freebies. I already locked some of those in for 100%. Now I went and got the January strikes because you start looking, and back in April of 2024, when it ran, I think it was 3 all the way up to 10. It was like almost like this moment is when it started its run, and then you kind of wish that, hey, I wish I had out of the money strikes back when it before it started to really break out. And I think that's kind of the moment we're at with CGC and some of these other names, because even this today, I forget there was an art or someone came out with talking about consumption of alcohols down to lows not seen since 1950 or something to that effect. But I think there's a lot of different uh, catalysts and things that are going on that are causing that. It's not just like people decide today, I don't want to drink beer. I don't want to drink, I don't have a mixed drink or vodka or rum or whatever. No, it's because it's like behaviors are changing, and it's kind of with the GLP-1 drugs, right? I mean, oh my gosh, GLP-1 drugs, I mean, I see a future in 5 or 10 years where they're used for addiction control, right? So I'm no, I'm no pharmacist, whatever. Uh, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physicist. I don't do the studies. I don't know any as much about GLP-1 as many folks out there, but there's signs that it does remove properties that involve addiction, right? So if that's the case, then you have to think people who, might have 6, 10, 12 beers a night or a couple drinks or a bottle of wine or whatever, the GLP-1 is probably going to remove that. And I wouldn't say remove it completely, but take it to a point where it's going to curtail their consumption, right? And if they curtails their consumption, it's going to curtail their alcohol spending, right? So that's one aspect of what's going on with health. And then the other side is other avenues of pleasure, I guess you would call it. So when you look at people changing their habits, the gummies, the cannabis side, there's all these different outlets now, dispensaries, things like that. So it's just, I think it just opens up a whole uh, market that, I mean, was big to begin with, right? But it was illegal. Now I think that it's the regulatory stuff's coming out. It's just, all right, rants for other days, but I could see it trading substantially higher. So I got those January strikes. Hopefully, I'm not staring at those come January, kicking myself, but I don't think I will be. And then take a look at a longer term chart all the way from April. I think it hit 12, 13 bucks. Okay, so that's CGC. Oh, edit, right? Take a look at edit today. Back from the dead. My January strikes, which are already locked in for 100% profits and for over a little over 100% with some profits, but I'm holding freebies, and they've been kind of like, I wouldn't say I wrote them off, but it's a name at some point I figured was going to catch some, at least get some wind in its sails, and then boom, had earnings after the close yesterday. Nothing crazy, but like a beat on revenues, but not much. And then got an upgrade this morning from Bard, who raised our price target from like 4 to 6. And stock was stock's at $2. So, I mean, you see some of these analysts in Bioland throwing out crazy price targets on some stocks. I mean, VKTX is a great example. Is how many analysts have over $100 and some price target stocks at $40 right now. But maybe it's the start of it, right? And they had some positive data back in February. There's some spots like I think it's 325 or so. So if you can get over that, I think it's off to the races. I was actually looking at some more strikes. I'll just continue to hold what I have. Uh, I think that's it. I'm trying to think of some of the other stuff here that's going on. I keep thinking about my little rant this morning, right? And it's like with the tariff situation, it's like the CPI data yesterday, and the headlines say, "Oh, people, it was like a best case scenario, right? It was hot, but not too hot. Didn't show too much in the way of tariffs. It kind of shows that people were expecting huge impacts from the tariffs. Continues to show that the cause of higher prices from the tariffs is not as bad as people expected." But again, I keep thinking like it's like I don't know how to put it. Maybe it's like weeding a garden, right? When these tariffs, the business is a garden, right? And then the tariffs, over time, the weeds start to grow in the garden. The plants aren't as healthy. They're fighting all for nutrients and all that stuff. And then you you have tariffs, and tariffs is the person who comes and pulls the weeds out, right? So maybe the tariff's going to cause some of these plants that have been struggling, or they're doing great, but they could be doing better by weeding out some of the inefficiencies, right? So there's all these different outcomes that are possible from the tariffs that I think people just look at the negative side. And I am by no means, if you had told me back in April, I don't agree with the tariff. I still don't agree with the tariffs, right? But we're trading a market, so you have to figure how is this going to impact your trading? How is it going to impact the overall market, individual names, things like that? And just the more I think about it, I'm like, it's not. I mean, maybe it will be going down the line. 6 months from now, I'll be like, oh, I was completely wrong. But I'm like, maybe this is not as bad as it's been made out to be. And if you read the headlines, you talk to some people who all they do is watch TV, and I remember back in April, you have discussions with some people. I'm like, I don't think it's gonna be as bad. I mean, if you heard me on the rants, it's after Liberation Day, I was bamboozled, I guess you would say, after the poster board. But then after a while, you kind of come to the realization, hey, maybe this you hope that he would come to deals, and he did that pause, and then all those crazy 145% tariffs on China, all those things start to get rolled back. It's like, okay, this is definitely not going to be the high number. And then even if looks like low numbers, and then even that, it looks like exporters are taking some, importers are taking some, consumers take a little bit, and then hey, maybe the corporate names and businesses cut some fat and keep their margins, or their margins doesn't hurt their margins as much. All right, rants for other days. Small caps are at highs of the session. Lemonade's over $60. Let's have a great day, folks. I'll be back. Rock and roll.